We are solving question number 11 of the end of chapter exercises. Okay. Now in this question, they are saying that there is a segment AB. Okay. So let me just draw it. Okay. Suppose this is point A. Fine. There is a segment AB. Let me say this is point B. Okay. Segment AB, and on this segment there are 2 points P and Q, where P is closer to A and Q is closer to B, and these points are the points of trisection of AB. Okay, we know that bisection means it divides the segment into 2 equal parts. Trisegment means the points will divide the segment into 3 equal parts. Okay, so this is point P, which is closer to A, and this is point Q, which is closer to B. Okay, and it is a trisection. That means the lengths of AB will be equal to, let AP will be equal to PQ, and that will be equal to QB. Okay, and it also means that P will be the midpoint of AQ, and similarly Q will be the midpoint of P and B. Okay, now what are they asking us to do? Using our knowledge of how to find the coordinates of midpoint of a segment, we have to find out the coordinates of P and Q. How will we find them out? We have to derive the formula. Okay, so for deriving that formula, we have to use uh, the knowledge of how to find the midpoint. Now we know that for finding out the midpoint, what we do? We take the average of the endpoints. Okay, average. Fine. So let us go about solving this. Fine. So let us first find out the x coordinate, or let us first find out the formula or the equation which we will use for finding out the x coordinate of P, and that same we will apply for y coordinates and as well as the x and y coordinates of Q. Okay, for that, first I am considering that let A, the coordinates of A be x1, y1. Okay, the coordinates of B, let it be x2, y2. Okay, similarly let the coordinates of P be x3, y3, and the coordinates of Q be x4, y4. Okay, so let us first find out the x coordinate of P. Now the x coordinate of P is x3, right? And we know that x3 is the midpoint, or this P is the midpoint of AQ. So we can use the midpoint formula, the formula that we use for finding out the coordinates of midpoints. So the coordinate x coordinate of P will be the average of x coordinate of A and Q, right? So that will be x coordinate of A is x1 plus x coordinate of Q is x4, and because we are finding out the average, we have to divide them by 2. Okay, from this, when we take this 2 on the left hand side, we will get 2x3 is equal to x1 plus x4. I hope you agree. Okay, this will be our equation 1. Let us say this is our equation 1. Fine. Now let us focus our attention on point Q and try to find out the formula for finding out the x coordinate of Q. So x coordinate of Q is x raised to, or x4. Okay, and the endpoints are P and B. So it will be the average of x coordinates of P and B. So that is x3 plus x2. But just because this x2, it sounds better to write x2 plus x3 instead of writing x3 plus x2. So x2 plus x3 divided by 2. Okay, now this value of x4 we need to substitute in equation 1. Okay, so what are we doing? We are substitute value of x4 in equation 1. Okay, so what will we get in equation 1? We will get 2x3 is equal to x1 plus, now instead of x4 we will write this fraction x2 plus x3 upon 2, right? Okay, that is what we will do. Fine. Now we don't want this 2 in the denominator. Okay, so what will we do? Let us multiply this equation, multiply the equation by 2. Okay, so when we multiply the entire equation by 2, on the left hand side 2 multiplied by 2x3 will give us 4x3. On the right hand side 2 multiplied by x1 will give us 2x1 plus 2 multiplied by this fraction, the 2 in the numerator and 2 in the denominator will get cancelled and we will get x2 plus x3. Okay, now let us take this x3 on the left hand side, because here also there is x3. When it goes on the left hand side it will become minus, so 4x3 minus x3 will give us 3x3. 3x3, that is equal to 2x1 plus x2. Okay, now see friends, from this formula we can find the value of x3. Okay, therefore the value of x3 will be equal to 2x1 plus x2 divided by 3, divided by 3. So that is the formula, or that is the equation that we will use for finding out the x coordinate of point P, right? Similar thing we can use, or same equation we can use for finding out the y coordinate as well. Therefore y coordinate of P, that is y3, will be equal to 2 multiplied by the y coordinate of point A plus the y coordinate of point B divided by 3. Okay, fine. And similarly we can do it for x4 as well as y4. Okay, but before going there, let us generalize this formula. Okay, so that we can use this formula not only in this sum but in any other sum. Okay, now if you look at this segment AB and points P and Q, you will see that if we talk only about point P, this point P is dividing the segment AB in two parts. Okay, where the length of AP is half of length of PB. Okay, length of AP is half of length of PB, or I can say the length of PB is twice the length of AP. Fine. So I can say that point P divides AB in ratio, not ration. Okay, by mistake I have written ration. Ratio 1:2. Agree that if AP is one part, then PB is twice of that, that is the two parts. Okay, in ratio 1:2. So now see this 1:2, and you can try to identify here. See, x3, the P coordinate of point P, is 2 multiplied by the x coordinate of point A plus 1 multiplied by the x coordinate of point B, and 3 is actually addition of these two, 1 plus 2. Okay, 1:2, so if we add them we will get 3. Okay, fine. So if we want to generalize this, let's say any point, if any point divides segment let us say segment AB only here, okay, segment AB in ratio m is to n, m is to n. So we are using variables in place of absolute numbers. So instead of 1 is to 2, I am saying m is to n, okay. Then the coordinates of that point P. So here we have taken the coordinates of point P as x3 and y3, okay. So that will be equal to this m is 1. See, m is equal to 1, fine. So what are we multiplying this m with? We are multiplying it with the x and y coordinates of point B, okay. So m multiplied by the x coordinate of point B, that is y2 x2, plus n multiplied by the x coordinate of point A divided by m plus n, okay. And similar thing we can write for y coordinates as well, m multiplied by the y coordinate of point B plus n multiplied by the y coordinate of point A upon m plus n. Got this? Okay. We could also write it as mx1 plus mx2 upon m plus n. That is also okay, because in addition the order necessarily does not matter, okay. But just because we are following alphabetical order, m should come before n, that is why we have done this, okay. So can we write the formula for point Q in same way, x4 y4 also? Fine. Yes, we can do, but only thing we have to pay attention there is that P is dividing in the ratio 1 is to 2. Q is dividing point this segment AB in the ratio 2 is to 1. Okay. Q is dividing the segment AB in the ratio 2 is to 1 because it is closer to point B. So that is 1 and the other part is 2. Fine. So the values of M and N will change here. Okay. So M will become 2 and N will become 1. Fine. So we have to be careful of that. Okay. So when we talk about this point Q, we can say that that will be M multiplied by, same formula we can use, M multiplied by x2 plus N multiplied by x1 upon M plus N multiplied by M multiplied by y2 plus N multiplied by x1 upon M plus N. Okay. So this formula we can use, and this formula is actually called as the section formula. And we can use this for finding out the coordinates of any point which divides a given segment, okay, in some ratio. We should know that ratio, then only we can use this section formula, okay. And in fact the midpoint formula which is there, it is also a version of this section formula only, because in midpoint formula, or when the point is a midpoint, the ratio is 1 is to 1, okay. So m is also 1, n is also 1, so m plus n will be 1 plus 1, that is 2. So that is what we are using here, right? Midpoint formula. Fine. I hope you have understood this, how we derive the formula. Now let us use the actual values given in this sum, okay. So we can see here that the coordinates of A are given 4 and 7, and the coordinates of B are given 16 and minus 2, okay. So if we want to find the coordinates of P, that is x3 y3, okay. So suppose if I use this formula 2x1 plus x2 upon 3, okay, so that will give us, or we can directly use this as well, okay, because this is same thing, we have written it in general form, okay. Point P is dividing segment AB in ratio 2, 1 is to 2, not 2 is to 1, 1 is to 2. So M is 1 and N is 2, okay. So m is 1. So 1 multiplied by x2. So x2 is what? The b coordinate, x coordinate of point B, that is 16, plus n is 2 multiplied by the x coordinate of point A, that is 4, divided by 1 plus 2, that is m plus n. Okay. And similarly for the y coordinate also we will write the same thing. 1 multiplied by the y coordinate, that is minus 2, plus 2 multiplied by the y coordinate of point A, that is 7, divided by 1 plus 2. Okay. So that will be equal to, if we simplify this, 1 into 16 is 16, plus 2 multiplied by 4 is 8, divided by 1 plus 2 is 3, and here 1 multiplied by minus 2 is minus 2, plus 2 multiplied by 7 is 14, divided by 3. Okay. So that will be equal to 18 plus 3 is 24, divided by 3, and minus 2 plus 14 is 12, that divided by 3. Okay. So the coordinates of point P will be 24 divided by 3 is 8, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. Okay. So these are the coordinates of point P. Okay. Same way we can find for the coordinates of point Q. Okay. So point Q, that is x4, y4. Okay. Same formula we will use. Okay. So m, now the value of m will be 2, not 1. Okay. 2 is to 1. So m is 2. So 2 multiplied by x1, 2 multiplied by x2, sorry, 2 multiplied by x2, that is 2 multiplied by 16, plus 1 multiplied by x coordinate of A, that is x1, that is 4, divided by 2 plus 1. Okay. And similarly for the y coordinate also, 2 multiplied by y2, that is minus 2, plus 1 multiplied by 7, divided by 2 plus 1, m plus n. Okay. So that will be equal to 2 multiplied by 16 is 32, plus 4 upon 3, comma 2 multiplied by minus 2 is minus 4, plus 1 multiplied by 7 is 7 upon 3. So that will give us 32 plus 6 is 36 upon 3, and minus 4 plus 7 will be, minus 4 plus 7 will be 3 upon 3. So that answer will be 36 divided by 3 is 12, and 3 divided by 3 is 1. Okay. So we have found out the values of x and y coordinates of points P and point Q. P का है 8,4 and Q का है 12,1. Okay. So that will be the answer of this question. Fine.